Here we are with our 5th episode of UU Campus Q's, where your questions about UU Campus Ministry get answered. I'm Reverend Annie Gonzalez-Milliken, the Young Adult and Campus Ministry Associate for the Unitarian Universalist Association. Along with having an absurdly long name and job title, I support students, faculty, ministers, religious educators, and UU volunteers with the sacred work of serving the spiritual needs of college students. Today's question is from Emily Parker, a student leader from the UU student group at Juniata College in Pennsylvania. She sent her question in early 2016 asking, I am looking for ways to prepare my campus ministry to outlast me and my fellow officers. I am especially interested in examples of campuses that had ministries outlast a generation of students. How did they do it? That's a great UU Campus Q, and it's also a hard one. To answer the question, we have some thoughts from Matt Stidham, who was a student leader at the UU group at Western Washington University.
Hello, my name is Matthew Stidham. I'm currently involved in several Unitarian Universalist groups. I'm involved with the Western Washington University UU Campus Ministry. I'm involved with the Young Adult group at Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. I am also actively involved in the Pacific Northwest Unitarian Universalist Young Adults, which serves Unitarian Universalists all the way from Idaho, Oregon, Washington, BC, and Alaska. And we try to host cons twice a year. If you're trying to lead your young adult group, I have a few suggestions from my experience. The first thing that I highly recommend is make sure no one person is overburdened. At our age, when we're going through college or starting our careers, it's really easy to take on way too much. If you start thinking you have too much going on, you need to be able to have other people in your group who know the process of what's going on and know how to take over for you if you start getting too much homework or too much work just at your job. And that's the most important thing. There needs to be a lot of communication between people of the group. That's my second point. And the third most important thing I've learned from these three groups, every single member who's active in the group should know how to run the organization ideally. You do this not by hey, you're going to all lead the organization ultimately, but you do this by allocating tasks piece by piece so no one person takes too much of a burden with the project, and each person then learns how to lead as they're going through college or their post-college life to the point where that they become a person who is able to keep the group going. Because I've seen there have been a couple times where these groups have two of these groups have almost completely fell apart a couple times because we'd have one person doing too much work and then the other people wouldn't really know how to get the ball rolling to keep it going. So what you really need to make certain, and the most important thing, each and every person should know how the organization functions, for one, and second, they should be able to take over leadership positions as people come in and out, not necessarily just leaving Unitarian Universalism, but just going to different parts of their lives, like they move out of town or whatever. So that is my advice from my experience on how to make sure that your young adult group can survive for the long term, which is ultimately the goal.
We also have some tips sent in via email from Marian Hirsch, who is the Director of Lifespan Religious Education at the Community Church of Chapel Hill. She's been supporting the UU student group at University North Carolina Chapel Hill for years, and she's seen many student transitions through those years. Her thoughts are read for us by Stephanie Carey Marin. Take it away, Stephanie.
Marian Hirsch also has some tips on how to share leadership and get new leaders in place. She says, have co-leaders whose terms are staggered so that there is an experienced person in leadership mentoring a new leader. Also, it's easy to recruit leaders if they know the leadership is shared, and it's more fun. Ask leaders a semester out if they think they'll want to continue the next year. Knowing people's plans early provides plenty of time to recruit new leaders, and it shows respect for the current leader's time and that the group hasn't just assumed that it'll continue. Also, asking new leaders well in advance helps them plan their commitments, and helps make sure that there's leadership in place when leaders go abroad for a semester.
Make sure that you're inclusive to people within the entire age range. Now, if you're a campus ministry, you're probably just going to be like 18 to 22, 23. But if you're a young adult group at your local church, you might be up to 25 or up to 35. It all depends on your group's decisions. But you want to have people constantly coming up through the ranks, through youth, to fill in the spots and just keep the community going. Because otherwise, it's really easy for these groups to die. So you want to have... So those 4 points are what I found work best to make sure the groups survive for the long term and can do some really amazing things in the meantime.
The tradition in the UNC group is that the current leaders recruit new leaders. It's an organic process, but intentional, and we talk about it regularly, so it doesn't sneak up on us. In addition to bringing in new and younger leaders, it's important to think about how to make communities more inclusive. Marian has some thoughts on this topic. She says, people who are likely to be good leaders are people who reach out to new folks and include them. People who are more cliquey tend to make the group appear more closed. When we can, we try to have both a male and female co-leader. It isn't always possible because there are many more women than men at UNC, and generally, men tend to be less interested in religious organizations. But when we can, we seek diversity in leadership, in all ways, not just gender. When we've had trans, queer, or leaders of color, our group has been more welcoming and feels more welcoming. So being intentional about leadership diversity is important, but the constraints are real. The number of UUs at a given campus tends to be small. We're typically 0.1% of a student body. So sometimes leadership groups are less diverse than is ideal.
Thanks for those tips, Marian. It's true we are small, but we're also mighty and we do an important ministry on these campuses. Thanks for watching UU Campus Cues, where your campus ministry questions get answered. Do you have a UU campus question? Email us at campusministry@uua.org or tweet with the hashtag UUCampusCues.